Hey cats, Ed, Midsole Bud here. Many viewers have requested a versus video for the PUMA Deviate Nitro Elite 2. I'm going to compare it up against some of the other contenders. Here it is. Thanks for tuning in, people, it's always appreciated. Help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell below for notifications. Also give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. The PUMA Deviate Nitro Elite 2 really is a top-notch shoe. Shows the brand have carefully refined the model from the first version. Just some subtle changes here that make a really big difference. It's a little bit like Nike and the ZOOMX Invincible 3, just subtle changes once again that have improved the shoe. Doesn't need to be drastic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Many a matchup to get through today in this one, so let's get to it. So first up, comparing the PUMA Deviate Nitro Elite 2 to the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. You can't get away from the fact that the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 is that little bit lighter. Not by much, it's only a few grams in it. I think once you get down to around about 250 grams in a shoe, certainly in my size at least, then you don't really feel that much difference. They all feel pretty light around about this sort of weight, so I think it's marginal. I've got to say though, I do prefer the way the Puma fits around the foot in terms of the upper. I can't say I've ever been a massive fan of the asymmetric lacing that we've got here in the Nike model. Can feel a little bit awkward sometimes when you're trying to lace up the shoe, trying to get that tension just right. Puma have gone very, very traditional here in the Deviate Nitro Elite 2. Just kept it nice and simple, and actually the upper just kind of stays out the way of the foot. I think it will appeal to a few more runners, perhaps people that just aren't really keen on the quite constrictive Vaporfly fit. Certainly the Puma wins in terms of lockdown around the foot. It's just much easier to achieve. It just feels a bit more natural. There's less presence in the arch here in the Deviate Nitro Elite 2. A lot of viewers do say to me that they can't get on with the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. It's just a little bit too present there. They get a few rubbing issues, certainly in the later miles of those training sessions and races. The Puma does feel a little bit wider here in the midfoot through to the forefoot. I wouldn't say a huge amount, but that could be make or break really if you're perhaps considering this one for your marathon racing. Underfoot is kind of where everybody wants to know the differences. Both of these use a PUMA based material. The Nike is that little bit more compressive, slightly more squash to it, especially in the heel, though I think the Puma kind of wins a little bit there because this one's just a whole lot more stable. It runs a fine line between feeling usable at slightly slower paces, I guess, perhaps a little bit more consistent across the footbed, so I think it will just appeal to a wider range of runners. I'd suggest if your landing is predominantly in the heel and there's perhaps quite a lot of wear on other shoes that you utilize in your rotation, then the Vaporfly is just going to get mauled up pretty quick. A couple of viewers mentioned about some wear they thought they saw in the heel of my Deviate Nitro Elite 2. The rubber's absolutely fine here, there's masses of it left, there's no actual wear at all. Certainly the Vaporfly Next Percent is a shoe I'd probably put aside for those faster sessions and race paces. Just think you might get a little bit more use out of the Deviate Nitro Elite 2, perhaps in your training and then in your racing too. I'm confident now after some more miles in this shoe that it's a better fit perhaps from the half marathon up to the marathon. I think the Vaporfly probably handles just about any sort of standard race distance pretty well, anything from 5k really through to the marathon. Outsole wise, I do think that the Puma toasts the Vaporfly. I've spent countless hours removing thorns and bits of debris out of that very soft foam rubber that we have here in the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. There's far better grip, and I think we're going to get better durability here from the Puma grip formula. So between the two, there's about 50 odd quid in it. I think if I was to go for one and only one, it would be the Deviate Nitro Elite 2. Just less bells and whistles to it. Puma v Puma this time with the Fast R Nitro Elite. When you do look at this shoe, certainly when it's on a sort of level surface, it does look like there's almost like a negative heel to toe drop. There's a bit of a weird optical illusion, I think. The ride in these two shoes is completely different though when you get them on foot. A very aggressive sort of feel here. I think that's partly due to the more EVA based blend that we've got here in the heel. I think it is EVA, it's certainly firm. I'm not even sure that this is the Nitro material. I think this might be something else. Forgive me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But the squash of the Nitro Elite foam up front really does give you quite a different sensation. That firmer heel augmented with the softer foam in the forefoot. It's almost compressive and spongy, really. Does kind of throw you forward somewhat. Not so much as to which of the two is better. I think they're just for different sort of people. Depends what you want, I guess, from your higher pace shoe. Some shoes are certainly going to benefit some people more than others. I think that's where the Deviate Nitro Elite 2 comes in for me. It just feels a little bit more traditional. Kind of feels perhaps that Puma were going for like a Vaporfly style feel here. Actual ride in this one is much more traditional compared to the Vaporfly. It's certainly quieter. It isn't all that noticeable that all you've got between the heel and the midfoot and forefoot here is a insole and a bit of upper material. The carbon plate here is the only major thing that's holding the two parts together. It's certainly a lot more aggressive as well in use. Does make you want to run a lot faster, but kind of leads me to burnout somewhat. The shoe certainly makes you feel like you want to spend a bit more time here in the forefoot and sort of delve into that foam, a little like a hungry field mouse that's found a little morsel of cheese on a cold winter's morn. I mean, this is the more expensive shoe of the two, though I feel like the Deviate Nitro Elite 2 just fits better for me. I think across a range of paces as well, this one just feels like a 5 or 10k shoe almost. I think if you like the Tempo Next Percent from Nike, this is probably one you'll want to try out. It's got a similar sort of vibe about it. A bit like a muscle car, like a wild beast. Just a more smooth feeling here in the Deviate Nitro Elite 2. I find this one goes up through the gears really nicely. Just nice transitions there. The Fast R just wants to push you into the danger zone that bit quicker. I think I'm preferring the outsole on the Deviate Nitro Elite 2 as well. Again, that's just due to simplicity. There aren't many areas there where debris can get clogged up. There are many areas here where debris can get in. Certainly in that mid forefoot section. And it's almost like a honeycomb style system back there in the heel. I mean, the grip's great on this one, but yeah, you'll spend a lot of time kind of brushing all of the debris out. Just wish it had the same outsole as the Deviate Nitro Elite 2. I think that would make the shoe kind of pair up as like a collection a little better. Now, there's one shoe that does fall into a similar category, I guess, for me as the Puma, and that is the Takumi Sen 8 from Adidas. I have yet to pick up the 9. From everything I've read and everything I've seen. It's a very, very similar shoe. Not sure I can justify 170 smackaroonies on something that's just so close to this one. There is a little more stack in the Puma shoe versus the Takumi Sen. That is noticeable on foot, as is the change in drop from heel to toe. For me, that makes the Puma the half marathon and above shoe. I'm not sure I'd want to run a full marathon in the Takumi Sen 8. Don't think it's quite got enough cushion for me. I mean, both of these shoes are built for speed, that is for sure. There's a little bit more spring in the nitro-infused P-Bax material here. Just a more accommodating fit all round as well in the upper. A lot of people found the Takumi Sen 8 to be a little bit too constrictive through the arch, a bit like the Vaporfly. And the toe box on that one is really quite tight. They seem to have widened this one a little bit. It's just a touch more room than I recall there being in the original version. It's a roomy fit, a bit like a inviting hotel room where you got a nice free minibar and a TV that actually lets you change the channels. There's a range of different stations and no noisy neighbours. Ample grip on both shoes, though again I think the Puma just takes it. Might get a little bit of slip and slide here in the Takumi Sen if you're running on some smoother surfaces. That's not to say it's bad, it was actually a considerably good outsole. I just think the lugs here, God knows what they're made of, but they're rather spiffing. This just does a lot of things and a lot of things well. I think the Sen 8 and 9 are kind of interchangeable in terms of this comparison. One thing to note is the Takumi Sen 8, in my size at least, is a fair amount lighter than the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2. Just from memory, I think it was about 15 or 20 grams lighter, and that might be make or break for you. I think most of the weight is actually saved in the upper. That is very thin compared to the Puma shoe. Probably work a bit better for larger feet, so if you've got a wider foot, slightly more voluminous foot, then the Puma is probably the best one. And these models come in at pretty much exactly the same price, so it's horses for courses on this one. Guess it's down to use case really. If the marathon is the distance you're going for, then the Puma kind of wins out. Just got a little bit more midsole, and you're probably going to appreciate that towards the latter stages of your race. Takumi Sen though, still a great shoe, especially on discount right now if you can pick up the Sen 8. Normally sub 100 Earth credits. Better choice perhaps for the shorter distances, and you've got a slightly lower stack, lower drop. Okay, that's my comparisons for today, people. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? That's absolutely fine, you know. Remember, my thoughts here are based on my experiences and runs in the shoes. I've got no axes to grind against any models, really. Some of these have been absolutely fantastic for me. I do feel that the Puma just edges it, though. It's got something else. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on today's video down in the comments. Quick musical interlude for you today from Nick Drake with a sort of best of release back from 2004 called A Treasury. There's some great tracks on here. If you've never heard Nick Drake before, probably a really good starting point for you. Wonderful sort of mysterious songs like Riverman, features some strange time signatures, does literally feel like you're walking along this canal, maybe on a hazy summer's day. Beautiful melodies there that Nick picks out of those strings. One of my favourites from Nick Drake has always been Place to Be. Beautiful sort of sentimental kind of lyrics here, and there's a fantastic Northern Sky as well. There are some slightly more morose tunes on here. I always found Fruit Tree a little bit dark, I suppose, and then you got Black Eyed Dog as well, which goes a little bit further into that blackness. I'm kind of glad they ended the whole album off on the track From the Morning, because it kind of brings you back up away from that sort of abyss. Wonderful acoustic guitar music here from Nick Drake with the best of album, A Treasury. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Help the channel out with a subscribe and also click that bell for notifications. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you